Hi, welcome to Me and Grok in the Kitchen. Today is the day before Thanksgiving, so I am running around like crazy trying to get all the cooking done that I need to get done. There are two things that I am always asked to bring to pretty much every holiday. One is my holiday potatoes, and the other one are my yeast rolls. And we're going to be talking about the yeast rolls in this episode. Yeast rolls, this recipe for yeast rolls is actually a family recipe. According to my mom, there was somewhere back in our ancestry a baker, and this is a recipe that supposedly has come down through the lineage from that baker and has been made into something that, the average everyday cook can actually utilize. So you're not making, 50 loaves of bread, you're making one or two, as this one happens to me. So making bread is a little time consuming, but like I say about everything I cook, it's not difficult. Maybe it is, I don't know, but I don't think it is. So let's talk about our ingredients and then we'll start to put things together. The first thing we need to talk about is our yeast. There are several different kinds of yeast that you can get on the market. This is a rapid rise yeast, and it just means exactly what it says. It will rise faster. I don't tend to use it a whole lot, not for my regular bread making. I don't necessarily need it to rise faster. Usually I can put this in a really warm place and my bread will rise perfectly fine in a reasonable period of time. Anyway, if you happen to be in a rush, go ahead and use it. The measurements are exactly the same. What I use is regular old yeast. Whole yeast has to stay refrigerated. It's dormant in this stage. It's sleeping, which this is what I've always used. So this is how I'm going to do it this time. Neither of these is hard to find. You can find these right in the grocery store, regular yeast or yeast. You can also find it in little packets. The other thing I have is I have a quarter stick of melted butter. I have about half a tablespoon of sea salt, fine sea salt, and I have a quarter cup of regular granulated sugar. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of sugar to a cup and a half of warm water. Now, why am I doing that? That's because your yeast, when they wake up, are going to be hungry. So we're going to give them something to eat. So to that, I'm going to just add my yeast. And we're going to let that sit for a couple of minutes. I am going to give it a quick whisk just to make sure everything is incorporated. Make sure that as it wakes up, it gets plenty of access to that sugar to eat. And what I'm going to be looking for is for this to kind of foam up a little bit. It should get a little foamy. If your yeast doesn't do that, throw it out and get something new. It means that something's happened to your jar or something to the packet, or heaven forbid, something to that thing of regular yeast that you got. It basically means your yeast is dead. You don't want, you can't use it for your bread because it won't rise. Do this step first because you don't want to get everything all together and then have your yeast not be active and live and ready to eat its way through the gluten in the bread. You really want to make sure that you do this step first so that you know that your yeast is live. So we're going to just let that do that. In the meantime, I'm going to take the rest of the sugar and just add it to my mixing bowl. You are more than welcome to knead this bread by hand if you want to, but I bought a mixer and I use this mixer specifically to make bread because I can just think of better things to do than stand around and knead bread by hand for 10 minutes. So into here goes the rest of my quarter of a cup of sugar. Then I'm going to add 4 cups of flour. I'm also using bread flour, and I'm using the scoop and swish over. Now, the reason I'm using bread flour is because bread flour has a higher protein count. And more protein in your flour means that you get a lighter, fluffier bread. It's got a nicer chew to it, gets a nicer crust and all of that kind of stuff. It's just, I mean, it's right there in the name, right? Bread flour. So use bread flour. You can, back over here looking at our yeast, you can see that it's starting to get a little bit fuzzy here. It's starting to activate a little bit. Not a whole lot yet. We're going to let that keep going. In the meantime, I'm going to take my butter and I'm going to just pour this in a circle right over my flour. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I actually want to incorporate this into the flour. What happens is when the bread bakes, all of these fat modules, they have a little bit of water in them, and we're going to be adding some more water to it too. And they all kind of clump together. And when they bake and when they rise, they kind of open up and burst. And that's what makes your bread rise. So you want it to be incorporated fairly well. So I'm actually going to take my handy dandy whisk that goes with my mixer, and I'm going to use that to whisk it in. The other thing that this does is it incorporates the sugar. And now I'm going to add my salt. It's going to incorporate the salt, and it's going to fluff up that flour just a little bit too. And that's going to make things incorporate a little bit easier. And that's all there is to it. Okay, now look back at this. See what this is doing? That means my yeast is active. And that's exactly what we want. It's not quite ready to jump into the party yet, but we're going to let that keep going and come back to that in a minute. Feel like I'm wasting time waiting on my yeast, waiting on my yeast. Well, I'm ready yet. Watched yeast never blooms. Just kidding. Okay, so it might be a little hard for you to see in the picture, and I apologize for that. I don't really have a good cross-angle camera to show you this, but it's really done a great job. I have very happy yeast. So I'm going to give this just a quick little whisk, and then I'm going to pour this in a big kind of circle all the way around. And then I'm going to take this to the mixer and I'm going to mix it and I'm going to let it go, and because the mixer is going to do the kneading as well. So I'm going to let it go for maybe 5 minutes. So I'll be back. So I let this go in my mixer with the dough hook for about 5 minutes. And you can see it's got nice spring to it. That's really what we want. Nice and smooth. This is a Cambry. It's just a plastic thing. It comes with a cover, but it is outstanding for rising bread and those kinds of things. It also has this nice little thing on it that tells you how much is in here. You're looking for your bread dough to actually rise about double. So you get to see, it shows you right there what it is. All I'm going to do is I've got a little flour on my hand. I'm going to come in here, get my dough out. Oh, look at how easy that is to handle. That's exactly what we're looking for. And then plop, right in the middle. I am gonna pat it down just a little again so that I can see what my measurements are. Put the cover on, and I'm gonna put this in a nice warm place, and I'm gonna let it sit in that nice warm place for a couple of hours until it doubles in size. The great thing about having this plastic dish with a cover on it is you don't have to worry about it drying out. You don't have to put a tea towel over it or anything like that. if you don't have such a thing, just get like a glass bowl, even a plastic bowl, and put some kind of plastic over it, or barring that, take one of your hand towels, that you would usually use, clean one, wet it, and just set that over it. And that will work just as fine too. So we're going to put this out in a warm space for a couple of hours, and then I'll see you back here and we'll make rolls. So welcome back. My bread dough has risen. It's been just about 3 hours since I got it going. You can see here my little thing says very nicely that it's, and you can just tell. All right, now I'm going to actually shape the rolls. I'm going to put a little bit of flour down and just here it is. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Okay, I am going to knead this just a little bit. I'm not going to add too much more flour to it. Again, this is bread flour. Just a little bit because it's gonna rise again. This is the hand kneading I was talking about earlier that I do with my mixer instead of my hands, because who wants to do this for 10 minutes? Not me. Okay, now I'm gonna flop it over, add a little bit back in, and I'm gonna push it out a little bit, and I'm gonna just let it rest a little bit. Notice how it springs back. Means it needs a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes to just relax a little bit. I did just give it a little what for while I was kneading it, and it just needs to relax. In the meantime, let's talk about my roll cutter, my biscuit cutter. Now, you probably can't see this. It's kind of hard to see. This was handmade for me. It comes in a set of 3. There are 2 more that are smaller than this. A very good friend and relative was a machinist, and he made this for me back in 2009. And it says Soyet Machines, Cat's Kitchen, 2009. He made these specific because I could not find a roll, a cookie cutter type of thing that was solid enough to actually make really good rolls with, and that still had a nice thin layer to it. So he made this for me, and it is very cherished. And because I liked it so much, I asked him to make 2 more. I asked him to make 2 more sets, one for each of my daughters, so that they could be handed down. Beautiful. These will probably go to my granddaughter. All right, so again, I'm just letting this dough, if it's got we're not making sourdough, so if it's got a little bubble, I'm trying to get rid of that. And just, I'm patting it out pretty thin. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to make sure I have plenty of rolls. This is another thing where I try to get out of making rolls, and I don't even have to be going to somebody else's Thanksgiving or Christmas, and they'll say, would you please make us some rolls? Please, we beg you. How do you say no to stuff like that? So I make a lot of rolls come the holidays, but I'm pressing it out fairly thin because these are going to rise a little bit more before I put them in the oven, and so they can be a little thinner because they're gonna get big. So probably 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, maybe an inch. I don't know. All right, there we go. A little flour, straight down, quick twist. Down, twist. Down, twist. Do it in whatever shape you want. Go this way and then around. I, for some reason, always do the outside first and then go in And I'm trying to be as careful as I can to get as many as I can out of this first thing. Okay, now I'm going to take these and just to put them into my pan. I will rearrange them in a little bit when I figure out how many I have. Now, I am not looking to add more flour into this because it's going to make your rolls tough. So I'm just kind of squeezing it together, and I'm going to try to make it. You don't want it to fall apart. You don't want a lot of this stuff if you can help it. You want it to be homogeneous, but you want it to be thinner again. Kind of reminds me of making pizza dough, to be honest with you. Upside down, side up. I don't care if this isn't 100% smooth. It's going to rise up and be a beautiful tasting yeast roll no matter what I do. So here we go. Twist, 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 twist. 4 more. And I'm probably going to get 2, maybe 3 more out of this. It will get a little tougher anyway, just because you're manhandling it. But that will, in general, go away. This last one, give it a little circular love, and then push it down a little bit. That one will be a little bigger than the others. Okay, and here's our pan. Now, I am probably going to switch this out for a smaller pan. I don't like this around the outside. When your rolls rise, they're going to go. It's because they're rolls, it's dough. They need support, just like everybody does. So give me a minute. I'm going to go get a different pan so that I can put these in and they can support each other. I'll be right back. Okay, so here we go. Now, so you can see some are already going a little sideways. That's okay. They'll kind of like run into each other and it'll all work out. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to put a tea towel over these. I am not going to dampen it. I'm going to just leave it the way it is. I'm going to go set these in my nice warm place and get my oven going at 425 degrees. Yeast rolls rise a little bit more. You can see that they've clearly doubled in size. These are actually going to rise a little bit more in the oven itself. My oven is at 400 degrees. I'm going to put them in for about 20-25 minutes until the tops are golden brown and they're cooked all the way through. Look at these beautiful rolls. They are just done to perfection. Now, one of the things that I do with my yeast rolls that probably most people don't, and most people probably do this sounds hollow kind of thing. I actually temp my bread. I'm looking for something that is around 210. There we go. A little bit past. That's great. Now, hopefully what that means is that as these cool, they won't fall flat, right? That they'll keep some of their structure. But there we go. Beautiful yeast rolls all ready for Thanksgiving Day. I hope you like this recipe. If you do, please give me a thumbs up in the bottom of the video. And feel free to follow me on any of my social media accounts at Me and Grok in the Kitchen. I want to thank you one more time and wish you a very happy Thanksgiving. And remember, Life is too short to eat bad food.